And welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report, and we have Mountain Red Velvet from New Zealand. Is this Karen or Campbell? Hello, hello. I know you're connected, so is this Karen or Campbell from Mountain Red Velvet, New Zealand? Can't hear any voices.
Hi.
Hi, Karen. For a second there,
doing?
we weren't connected. Very, very good. I know Campbell is working on our import licenses and so on, so we can bring in a new DR cap version of Mountain Red Velvet. It's next generation.
Yeah.
As I tell people, I guess it's the harvest season is pretty well over now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're done the last of our harvest, and our boys are back out on our ranches. They have had all sorts of extra feed this week, some lovely grapes and some kiwi fruit, and we are now processing for the new season stock.
Now, of course, the Mountain Red Velvet, I see, and I'm going to use my Imagineering here, I see a lot of advantages, just the same way as when we talk about mild hyperbaric oxygen or stem cell therapies, and we'll be interviewing more and more of these different companies. Mountain Red Velvet is one of the most important things if you want to slow the aging process or even reverse it. And we had a testimonial in the first hour of a gentleman who was scheduled to do knee surgery because, you know, as the doctors say, if you have a knee, you need surgery. I'm pretty bad, aren't I? That's why I say my doctor colleagues, you know, if you go to a candlestick maker, they make candles. If you go to a butcher, they butcher animals for food. And if you go to an orthopedic surgeon or a doctor that has a scalpel in his hand and he's got a large payment on a yacht he has to make and his summer home, he's going to cut on your knee. Now, you can
and
avoid
that's what we want to stop. Yes.
We want to stop that, yeah.
Yes.
We stop by informing the potential victim of the medical process. Remember, we don't really have a life care system. We have a health care system. And we have to make health synonymous with pre-embalming. And, of course, the inadvertent and unnecessary use of medications and or surgery when it's inappropriate. Now, if you've got a knee that's sore, I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman here just a month or so ago, and he had a sore knee. And his doctor said, in no uncertain terms, you need a knee replacement. But I said, well, you know, did he do an MRI arthrogram of the knee? Well, no, he just examined it and poked around. You need a new knee. You know, and of course, it's a major procedure. And I can tell you, I can't tell you how many nights I've been called back to my office in Denver, or when I worked close to Chicago, or in Georgia, where I had people had, quote, knee replacements. The number of people that die due to side effects and surgical complications of knee replacements in America per year is 50,000. Serious complications and or death.
Yeah.
And I mean serious meaning losing the leg, losing a knee appliance, so you have to be sitting around one of those little bucky chairs the rest of your life because you can't have a knee in there because you got a reaction to the materials or the machining oils to creating the knee orthopedic replacement. So all this person had to do is take Mountain Red Velvet, take our tendon bender joint performance, take our anti-inflammatories and Flamex, and start non-traumatic exercises with VibraSlim and body elastic bands. And lo and behold, they had a hydroviscous layer. If they needed a temporary hydroviscous layer, they put in a shot of 3 million molecular weight polymer called Highland, made from rooster combs. It's a surgical appliance, which I put in many times myself. You don't even need a C-arm x-ray into the medial or lateral compartment or the retropatellar space. This individual contacted me. Turned out when we did an MRI scan, his knee was totally healthy. He just had some retropatellar abnormal tracking, and he had sclerosis of the retropatellar surface of the patella. And all he needed to do is have the orthopedic surgeon go and burr it down, remove the fibrillated fragments that were calcifying and acting like micro razor blades in his retropatellar joint space, not even the knee itself, and change the alignment of the attachments of the ligaments so that you have proper, better tracking along the femoral condyles. And lo and behold, his knucklehead surgeon didn't have another knee to operate on. So,
yes. And I think that's what we hear a lot with people who have had a sustained injury for a long time, whether that's been an old sports injury or, gee, I had a car accident when I was a teenager, and they do start to take Mountain Red. As you say, it's a repair for the body.
Well, the thing is, now you see, before we would just know that the doctor did something wrong. Now we know what the doctor needs to do right. And that's why I've been asked to start off my book last year called Dr. U, and it was going to be a series of smaller ebooks. Now it's going to be one big book that I'll probably republish yearly with all the wellness conditions right now in terms of, whether you've got rotator cuff or capsulitis of your shoulder or knee joint problem. And Mountain Red Velvet literally fares in pretty well every anti-aging joint, tissue, solid organ regeneration, because the biophotonic superhighway for regenerating the epigenetics of your tissue is collagen. Elastin. For example, we had a consult in the first hour where someone said they were on methotrexate for rheumatoid arthritis and high-dose steroids. And, of course, steroids directly interfere with collagen and elastin, so that poor individual developed an aortic aneurysm because they've got weakening of the elastin in their artery. And, of course, if they're also on these other drugs, disease-modifying drugs like Humira, it suppresses their immune system. So, but another side effect of Mountain Red Velvet, a side-up effect rather than down effect, a side-up effect is an improved immune system, improved mood, improved recovery from, I call weekend warrior kind of physical activity. Whether you're walking on an irregular surface and you twist your ankle, you'll heal a lot faster. And, the whole process is, as you get older, it's not how many injuries you get, it's how fast you recover from them. The reason why older athletes fall apart is because the rate of recovery, as a percentage of the time it requires to recover from an injury, gets longer, so they start to accumulate micro-injuries. Those accumulated micro-injuries become macro-injuries, where they get total rotator cuff tears, tears of the interosseous ligament between the fibula and the tibia in the lower leg, tears of the deltoid ligament in the ankle, tears of the lateral epicondyle that cause epicondylitis. So we know what causes the problem.
Exactly.
When we increase the ratio of healing, then that doesn't happen.
And there's a perfect example on our website of Mike Davies. Now, he's an athlete that takes any person in the world, whether they have walked, run, whatever, and he believes that he can get them to do a marathon. So he trains with them. But he's exactly what you say, is that you must feed the body, and there's no better way to do that than with Mountain Red, 396 different active ingredients that help protect the body. So instead of that little niggle of an injury becoming a major injury, the body's able to heal with all the active ingredients that are within that capsule, and these athletes or these weekend warriors are not becoming the next surgery victim, as you say. They are able to heal the body and keep going and getting out there. There's Eddie, who's on our website, and he runs a farm. He's out active with his children. He likes to go fishing and kayaking, and his knees have been playing up. But now when he's on Mountain Red Deer Velvet, he's back out there. He feels like you've said, he's got way more energy. He's sleeping better at night. And these are just normal human beings who have taken the Mountain Red Challenge, 396 active ingredients that help to really heal the body.
Exactly. Now, tell us about some of the situations that you've seen. It's not just joints and ligaments. A lot of people think, well, it's just for collagen.
No.
Well, we start off with skin, hair, and nails. In fact, one of the biggest growth industries is cosmetics. We're actually looking at bringing on a nutraceutical cosmetic line. But the fact is, you got to start working on wrinkles from the inside. When you start taking Collagen Max, you actually have a dramatic decrease in collagen generation in the body, increasing collagen generation in the body, and decreased wrinkles. When you combine that with Mountain Red Velvet, it's remarkable. Just Collagen Max alone is very good, but then when you add Mountain Red Velvet, it's like wrinkles just disappear.
And that's
when
because you're feeding the body.
Right.
Yes. So I know you can get it available on your website today, Dr. Bill. You have Mountain Red there, and it's available.
Don't worry, we're going to be back in a second. We're going to the second segment, and we're going to take your questions on any health issue this hour. 800-259-5791. Be back in just a moment. And we're here with Karen, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. In the process of writing this book, which I've now it's been in the works with a wellness condition for years, but I'm going to solidify it and expand it dramatically, called Dr. U, which, by the way, if you get up in the morning, you walk to the sink with your hair a mess and your eyes kind of bleary because you just got your face under the pillow, or you've just come back from a long run and you're sweaty, and you look in the mirror and you say, oh my gosh, it's Dr. U. It's me. In other words, it's you out there. Whether you're in Australia, South Africa, India, China, Uganda, wherever. I plan on teaching, whether you're a health professional or a professional trainer or just a grandmother taking care of your family, how you can be your own Dr. You. And that means really from cell to grave. And again, hopefully that grave is extended a long way along, because I believe we really are approaching zero senescence. I'm preparing a lecture this December on aging, and my theory is going to shatter all the previous theories on aging. I do believe I have cracked the code of what aging is and why it occurs, and I've cracked the code on why stem cell therapies in the past have been very unsuccessful to a great extent, because they have missed the boat in terms of the extracellular matrix. In fact, my theory, one of the primary things is what's called the signal-to-noise ratio, which means in engineering principles, the ability of your body to epigenetically have a high rate of signal transfer with low noise, so that you can turn on and off the genes appropriately and develop the structural proteins and enzymes to create and recreate tissues to photocopy yourself into the future. You need to have the right toner. That toner is mountain red velvet. You need to have other nutraceuticals to remineralize yourself. And I can prove what I'm saying. In fact, we're using work on the scalar physics using the 8D-LRIS 3D, which is a big hospital-based version of the HD-LRIS that we now will sell here at Nutrimedical. And I'll be working on the next generation with Dr. Nemtsov from the Russian Nonlinear Space Agency and the Chinese scientists. They'll be coming over from Hong Kong and Shanghai. Michael Chen, Dr. Wong, etc. And the fact is that my theories are considerably further along than Nikola Tesla's or any of the other scientists like Colonel Bearden. In hour 3, I'm going to explain my theories in terms of non-linear scalar subatomic physics and how to get rid of isotopes in the planet and the oceans. I'm going to explain also in this book, which I'll be presenting probably by the summer, Dr. You, from A to Z, most of the major health conditions and how to approach them in terms of the best of medicine. And there is an appropriate place for some medical drugs to rescue people because they've done nothing to take care of their health, naturally or otherwise. But it's a very tiny amount. 20% of drugs, when used appropriate in a very small number of conditions, 80% of drugs are inappropriate in most conditions, and 20% are damned dangerous in all conditions.
Yes.
And the problem is that most of the surgery, and this is according to the American Murder Association, I call the AMA, that's a good term for them, the American Murder Association, because they sold themselves out for these billing codes and their CDP codes, etc., so they can make sure they have control of the medical profession. The fact is that medicine is an art based in science, and if you have neither art nor science, what do you have? You have, in the words of BS, you have nothing. And the problem is that the same thing goes with spirituality and religion, geopolitics, and every other area. Our world is awash with stupidity, arrogance, and self-deprecating insanity. And the problem is people don't want to say that the emperor has no clothes, but he also has a hairy behind. And that goes with our medical profession that says they want to operate on somebody's knee, or they have to do an aortic surgery, put in a Dacron graft because he medicated the person for decades and wondered why their aorta ruptured or was about to rupture because it expanded beyond the normal size when the dangerous catastrophic rupture was guaranteed to occur. And why we see the tensile strength of skin go. So people are walking along and they're 70 or 75 years of age and they bump themselves on a door jamb and their skin literally rips apart like tissue paper. Their hair is like fine nugo hair in a newborn. And the reason is because they've interfered with their normal collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid, and cellular tissue epigenetics, so the tissues cannot regenerate. There's no extracellular matrix to tell the tissues to connect that signal to noise to actually allow them to regenerate.
Exactly, and we have stories about people older people who have taken mountain red deer velvet, and their skin is far better, and they're not, when they bang themselves, having those injuries. And it goes right across the spectrum. You know, we've got the likes of Bob Tuckey, who's on our website, in terms of, he's a farmer and he's out active all day, jumping on his tractor, an office tractor, and he's had an active life, but says in his older age he became sore, didn't want to be out working as much, and especially in the cold. He said after taking Mountain Red Deer Velvet, he had no back pain at all, and he also felt better within himself, so way more energy, was able to sleep better. And these are real live stories on our website that everyone can have a look at of everyday people who are taking Mountain Red Deer Velvet, and it's making such a difference in their life, whether it's the energy that they have to do that double shift, to look after those grandchildren, whether it's the getting the better sleep at night, because when you're in pain, sleep is very difficult, to the weekend warrior who's back out there playing tennis or out running.
We have to explain what pain is. You see, I did the original research back in 1987 with Dr. Stu Donaldson at the University of Calgary on what's called the multi-level spinal electromyography research. And I developed my theory, which I patented in 1986-87 in the U.S. patent offices with several patents that I have, actually. And the development of, in 1999, with Dr. Jim Hedgecock at UC Irvine, working on his degree and PhD in physiology, he developed in 1997 the Axon 2 scanner, and I added electromyography potentiometry. So my theory of what pain is the most advanced on the planet, and explained it's an informational disorder. And there's 7 gates to the pain. The first gate is what's called the Langerhans gate in the skin at the dermoepidermal junction and the rete-peg layer. And it's a junction of autonomic nerves, sensory A delta and C fibers, as well as motor fibers and autonomic nerve interfaces, with local chemicals released in a, if you want to call a microendocrine nodule that can release a slow reactive substance of anaphylaxis, bradykinins, neurotenins, and other peptides. And the pain gate, basically, the reason why your skin is, if you don't have skin, you can't suffer pain. Even if you have deep bone pain from a metastasis or a fracture, without skin you cannot suffer pain. Interesting, hey? Nobody has ever said that before. I'm the first and only person on earth that said that. No skin, no pain. Now, the thing is that when you have pain in a joint, so telling your body, splint it and don't move it. Now, when you start taking Mountain Red Velvet, you're not covering it up like taking non-steroidals like Motrin. Motrin not only takes away the pain, it takes away your ability to heal the tissue. So if you take Motrin and you have a joint that's sore because you walked on an irregular surface in the golf, and you twisted your knee or jammed your patella against the femoral condyles, and now you've got retropatellar condylitis, etc., and synovitis of the retropatellar space, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose your hydroviscous layer, you're going to get joint cartilage on cartilage, you're going to get fibrillation, you get calcification and destruction. So the very fact is that you cannot heal unless you restore the healing process. And if you cover it up with Motrin, you're going to guarantee that doctor's going to cut and replace your knee with a cybernetic appliance, which you may get a reaction to. It'll be mechanically not like a real knee, and eventually it'll wear out and require you to have a replacement in 5 to 10 years.
Can heart and body extract?
And welcome back. I'm going to switch gears a bit and cover a couple of things. I was unfortunately bumped last night on the Rents Hour number 2, and of course we'll deal with details of that later. But I was going to mention a number of things that are really important. And the first thing that I'm going to touch on is what happened at Fukushima regarding the second robot entering the Fukushima Unit 1 containment area. And of course it got fried because they sent in a robot with normal silicon integrated circuits, which you could expect the electron flux of high energy beta particle emissions and the gamma rays, which anneal the microchip, the silicon-based microchip, would fry it within minutes. And of course the number of sieverts per hour of radiation was so excessive there's no way it would have survived. I think it was an on-purpose situation. You send a robot in that you know is not hardened against radiation. And of course this is to make certain that people realize, yes, we can't do anything for 200 years. Well, I'm going to give here right now specific engineering and plasma physics to explain how we can get rid of isotopes also in the Pacific Ocean. And I'm going to go beyond Dr. Colonel Bearden's patents, which were published in the early 2000s, and I'm going to give some specific technical details. Now, if you look at the Bearden patent, which I will give you links to, and it talks about the summary of his invention in terms of plasma physics, it goes back to the Society of the Bell, which was basically using a plasma form of mercury rotating in a torsion field effect. The effect of gravity is to actually create a boundary zone so the gravitons or Higgs field particles, or the God particle, creates a buoyancy effect against the object, and that's how you can lift objects, by creating what's called a boundary zone. So the Higgs field gravitons will push against it just like water molecules push against the hull of a large concrete or steel ship. The same effects work in terms of the plasma subatomic particle physics of destroying radioisotopes. When the sun has a coronal mass ejection before the CME occurs, where the ultraviolet light's released first, then you get a burst of ultraviolet light that arrives in 8.5 minutes. But before that, you get what's called a gravity wave. That gravity wave acts in hyperdimensional physics at faster than the speed of light. And it's basically what's called a disturbance in the time-space constant of the time-space coordinates, so that the time-space is embedded in the Higgs field, which is the field that creates wormholes, event horizons, and of course a black hole, supermassive black hole in the center of every galaxy. And emerging from the black hole are white holes that emerge in the star. So there's literally a plasma field connection in hyperspace in the fifth dimension, which is the research that's going on at the Hadron Collider regarding the God particle, trying to discern the embedding of time-space in a hyperdimensional physical dimensional realm called the Higgs field, looking at the direction for dark energy and dark matter. Now I'm going to make this real simple for those that want to understand. If you look at a radioisotope as a microdiamond, like my ancestors that have been for several thousand years working as jewelers, goldsmiths, metallurgists, making fancy jewelry and cutting diamonds. To cut a diamond, you have to know the specific direction of the interfaces or facets of the diamond. So when you make a cut, that cut will create a bringing of the light from the bottom of the diamond out to the top. But you have to know the weak points in the diamond. The same way in an isotope, if you were to take an isotope, say, of thorium or radioiodine, and you put it in a plasma field, it's going to create what's called a plasma resonator effect, where you'll generate specific frequencies, subatomic frequencies in the Higgs field. Those subatomic frequencies, if broadcast, can actually bring the energy level high enough that the diamond will, i.e. the radioisotope, will shatter along the specific weak points in the subatomic nuclei. So you'll change the T1 half or the rate of decay of that isotope. Now, before a coronal mass ejection occurs in the sun, there's a massive burst of what's called a gravity wave, and that gravity wave actually travels faster than the speed of light, changing the time-space constant and also altering the T1 half of isotopes on Earth. And they couldn't explain what is happening. So if you research, you'll see that the gravitonic wave, or the Higgs field wave, and this is basically a non-specific one. My theory would create a plasma field resonator chamber, a specific broadcast frequency with a collimated beam that could be satellite-based or aircraft-based, like a 747, and at a safe distance it could broadcast a collimated beam that would literally pulse toward the Earth, scan a specific area where isotope concentration is high, such as a plume coming across the ocean or the air, and shatter the nuclei, literally like shattering, quadrillions of diamonds, i.e. isotopes, along their weak points, and changing the T1 half to clear tritium, deuterium, and all the other radioisotopes that are coming from Fukushima. So basically it would be a way of shattering them. This also opens up the possibility, as Colonel Bearden talked about, the energy from the gravitonic waves of the solar system and the galaxy, because those gravity waves have tremendous amounts of energy. There's literally limitless energy, like Nikola Tesla talked about, but what I'm doing is giving you a kind of a brief explanation of the subatomic scalar biophysics of how you can change the T1 half of isotopes and destroy them from a distance. And I'm going to include all of these specific patents that are present in the past. I know the specifics of how to build them in terms of each specific step of this device. So if there's engineers out there who want to dialogue with me, contact me. I'll give you very specifics of how you can build a harmonic generator to discern the subatomic, we call gravity wave, time constant frequencies that will shatter the micronuclei, and how to create a collimated scalar beam that can actually alter the subatomic particle physics of isotopes and cause destruction of radioisotopes in situ in the Pacific Ocean or in the upper troposphere. So, my background in quantum nuclear physics, I understand how to do this, and I'll give you very specific details. So when I hear people say you can't do anything to stop the radiation at Fukushima Daiichi, I've given specific details last week also about how exactly to make a cabled robot with a mu metal box and a hardened depleted uranium shell to stop gamma radiation with IEEE ferromagnetic chips. There's no excuse for not attacking this problem using imagineering and advanced science to prove that we can alter the subatomic particle physics of isotopes in the world. And the concentrations, of course, of these isotopes are an extinction level event, so we have to not only accomplish this for that reason, but also to move away from what's called, they call it fossil fuels. There's no such thing as a fossil fuel. The fuel comes from the Earth, which is a nuclear reactor by the gold theory, and is created at 40 to 50,000 feet down by the bowels of the Earth. The Earth has also more water underneath the tectonic plates in the oceans or the air. And we have to accomplish this because we need to develop energy technology that does not utilize or consume oxygen. The most serious problem in the planet is peak oxygen, not peak oil, and the pollution that's created by radioisotopes for cooling, for heating water up and boiling it to create steam power generation for nuclear reactors is insane. The ingestion, for example, of radioiodine will be lethal after ingestion of 30 billionths of a gram. And so if people don't think that that's just one out of 200 plus isotopes, which causes a mitochondrial apocalypse. And if you look at the specifics in terms of the fact that we are being forced to advance our imagination and science toward a solution to this problem, you have to understand that the solution already exists. Dr. Bearden's patents gives a very good piece of this. The research by Nikola Tesla and other researchers too, talking about magnetic resonance antenna, scalar physics, and it goes right back to the Society of the Bell in Nazi Germany. And they were able to use plasma physics to affect gravitonic waves, and the Foo Fighters, which the Germans developed, use jet engine type propulsion systems. This technology is relatively straightforward to develop. So there you have it. I gave some technical answers, but I know how to get rid of the radioisotopes in the oceans, and I can give you specific step-by-step details how to build a device that would do so. We'll be back in a moment, and we'll be talking with Dave Mitchell coming up in Hour 3, our Science, Preparedness, and Astrophysics section with Professor
Do you feel the aches and pains?
And welcome back, and it's the Dave Mitchell section, and Dr. Bill can change gears at any time. As I say, I'm a master of 1,000 masks. How's that? And also, sometimes people take me real serious when actually I'm trying to, make them laugh a little bit too. Sometimes dark humor. As I said to Dave just before he comes on, I said, Dave, there's a couple pointers. The first thing is, number one, we'll stick mainly to things like real estate and prepping, but I'm going to throw some curveballs at you that'll make you squirm and wiggle, because the hardest thing is people get nervous over the fact sometimes you ask people tough questions that make people angry with you. I learned a long time ago the best way to not worry about getting into trouble is to make sure you stay there in trouble. And the best way to wake people up is to make certain that they can't be apathetic, that you force them into a strong emotion, whether it's good or bad. And that's also good because you realize your underlying reason for it is you care about them. Just like a parent that cares about a child doesn't want them to run by the furnace and put their hand on a hot, warm morning and burn their hand, or play with something stupid that's going to give them a third-degree burns from playing with lighter fluid in a match. We have people should start waking up to the fact that we as Christians especially need to be the ones that are the head and not the tail. And when we talk about prepping, I absolutely tell people, if you're in a large city now, you are an idiot if you don't move out. Now, you may get offended by that. Too bad, so sad, turn off the radio and walk away. Because if you don't get out of the big cities, as you see the craziness going on in our country and around the world, you are going to be in a state of shock. And one of my new bumpers I'm adding is Donald Fagen's album from 2003 that says, in the front of the album says, "Everything must go." And it shows a guy there with kind of like one of those suitcases they open up in New York or other big cities, and they want to sell you all kinds of jewelry and watches. And one of the songs is called "The Last Call for the Last Mall." It's called "The Last Mall." And it'll be a new bumper that we'll put on the show here. And it says, that it's cancellation day. Cancellation day is coming. You may not like that. You may say Dr. Deagle's just negative. He wants to ruin our life. He's making it so traumatic we don't want to have children. No, there is a future beyond this crazy world we live in where people like Hillary Clinton have the nerve to actually run as a candidate. But if you don't get out of the big cities and get a great real estate agent like Dave, you're nuts. Number 2, prepping. If you don't have at least 3 to 6 weeks minimum of food, water, and self-protection, you're also nuts, because you think the stores are going to have food longer than 3 or 4 hours after any real catastrophe like a coronal mass ejection, a plague, or major bioterrorism activity, and the government shuts everything down, or they do what's a kill switch to the internet, including your credit cards. Your credit cards are like a useless piece of plastic. If you think that you're going to be in a great state of mind, you're also nuts. Now, that may seem insulting, but I'm really sick and tired of people thinking this is a conspiracy theory. You can go to every financial expert from Gerald Celente to a zillion other top experts, including Bob Chapman, who used to run and will be getting on his new replacement for the International Forecaster. But if you think this is a theory that Deagle thought up because he wants to go boo and scare you, you're also nuts. I'm doing this because I care about you out there, and I want you to understand that we have a level of knowledge and wisdom about this that is both biblical and technical that exceeds yours, and if you think you know better than us, have the nerve and the guts to call and then confront me on air. And I dare you. I dare you, and it will be a very dark day for you indeed, because an intellectual vivisection with Dr. Deagle as the surgeon in charge is going to be painful without general and or local anesthetic. So, Dave, let's get into why people better get out of the big cities and why you're the best realtor in Southern California, probably one of the best in America as a broker. And then we'll get into the prepper stuff, and then once in a while I'll poke you with probably some controversial stuff that'll make you squirm. But that's okay. Squirming is a good thing. If we don't get out of our comfort zone, we're probably not going to save other people's hides, and we're not going to save our own hide because we're going to think everything's going to be okay. I can still buy a pizza. I can go to a movie. I can still go to my favorite restaurant. Yeah, things are inflated, and things are tighter. But, yeah, it does kind of scare me that Hillary Clinton, the Wicked Witch of the West, is running, and a bunch of non-candidates who got their mouths out there in the GOP party like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio that do not qualify for president because they weren't born here. They're Cubans. Cuba is not another district of America. It's not the District of Cuba. So, Dave, what do you think? Why should people get out of the big cities, and what do you have to offer that no other broker or realtor in Southern California can offer?
Well, actually, yesterday I just listed a property that's a perfect self-sufficient, private, at the end of the road property. It's 110 acres. It has a house. Unfortunately, it was built without permits, but it was built to code. It has 2 different wells. It has a deep well and it has a dug well, so you actually have water down about 14, 15 feet. Has lots of oak trees, has lots of places to grow stuff. And you're a mile from another house, which is hard to believe.
Now, is that down in Alpine, which is true? Is that down in Alpine? So in other words, a lot of people think, well, the drought's going to kill you all in Southern California. I hear, and this is something that really aggravates me too, people that are even in the so-called truth movement, and I have to say this, and you may be offended by it, but that's just tough. A lot of the truth movement I consider the bowel movement, where people take things and they exaggerate them. They exaggerate things they don't need to exaggerate, and things that are really, really serious that are going to smack us, like you see the 2x4 heading toward your head, and it's about 4 inches from your head, and you say, well, no, the 2x4 is not going to hit. When you know just the inertial momentum, it's going to hit your head. And they minimize things that are really serious that are going to happen, and they explode things out of context. When California gets in the state, do you think that Governor Brown is going to say we're going to remove 37 million Americans from the state and leave 500,000? Because some morons have actually made statements like that. And if you want to be upwind of any nuclear reactors like Phoenix, Arizona, and elsewhere around the country like New Madrid, you want to be on the West Coast, and you want to be as far south away from the Fukushima Kuroshio current as you can. As long as you don't eat seafood and eat shellfish from the Pacific Ocean, you're laughing. People need to understand this. And going to Ecuador or Patagonia isn't necessarily a solution. Patagonia and Southern Hemisphere are getting blasted with ultraviolet and cosmic and background X-ray radiation. And so just going to the southern tip of South America isn't necessarily a solution. People need to understand that. The best places to be are where you have fellow Americans that are patriots, that are armed to the teeth, have an attitude, and want to defend the U.S. Constitution, and they're Christians. period. You can't throw people together like reality TV, like they did when this. They had one reality TV show last year, and it was insane. They just threw all these people together that had completely different viewpoints, religious backgrounds, or whatever, and expected them somehow to survive Survivor Island or something stupid like that. It's not going to happen. And you can't survive mom and pop, even if you're a billionaire, by building a compound and having, robot surveillance systems around and all kinds of things. You need to have a community. So if it's up to a couple of months to 6 months, you're going to be fine out in a rural area growing having your chickens and stuff. But if things really go to hell in a handcart, like, Road Warrior, with, just like the old movies back 30 years ago, who was the actor that did that? It was really, really good, Do you remember, Dave, the Road Warrior movie series as it came out, and it would show all these crazy guys with these odd-looking vehicles? And pardon me?
Dukes of Hazzard?
No, we're talking about back a post-apocalyptic world. The guy that did Apocalypto, the actor, the originally Australian but became an American actor, right? Anyway, his name might appear to me later. So, Dave, what do you do that makes things completely different for people if you're going to the experience of getting a property? What do you do that's different from other realtors and brokers that will, number one, give them more security, cost less money, it give them more property review before you get into the situation, so that you're not going to get taken, and give them options to get in at a much lower total cost. In other words, if they want to pull the fifth wheel on a piece of land that has a well, if they want to get a property like this, it's built to code but not with permits, they can get the permits pretty easily. That property, how much is that one going to list for that you just mentioned? It's 10 or 16 acres or something?
Yeah, they're asking $425,000 on it.
Wow.
Which sounds like a lot, but it's not really for what you're getting.
How much? And you can probably subdivide that property as well if you go through the subdivision process to put in a bunch of homes there to build a community if you needed to, right?
And it's possible a couple of adjoining pieces might become available also.
Yeah, I repent of one thing. I didn't have a long enough segment to be able to joke with you and to make you squirm. Dave will get you on longer next time, so we have fun for that. So if you want to contact Dave, go through their link at the front affiliates page of Nutrimedical.com. His phone number directly is 619-990-6050. As I say, if you're in the big cities, get out. If you're not prepped, get started. If you think it's not going to happen, listen to that bumper of the last mall, and it's the last call to the last mall because it's cancellation day. It's a-coming. If you don't believe it, you're going to find out the hard way.
So the news breaks. Hillary